We hear the word inflation a lot today. We're experiencing inflation worldwide. I live in a state called California. I experience, like you do, I experience inflation in every direction. Whether I'm shopping for food at the grocery store, or if I'm going to the gas station to pump gas. The rising cost of everything is just amazing. I was at the gas station the other day, and if you pay cash, you get a little bit better of a deal than if you pay with a card at this particular gas station. And so my good deal I was getting for paying cash was $6.35 a gallon. And what they do is they kind of do this thing where they raise the prices so crazy high that you're hoping they will just go down a little bit. So then I go back to this particular gas station, and the prices are only $5.95 a gallon if you pay cash. Oh, look at that. And they get you so thankful that the prices have lowered to now $5.95 for the cheapest gas, the regular. And the amazing thing is, it's like this tactic. They inflated the price. They inflate, right? Inflation means to inflate, to blow it up. Like when you inflate a balloon, you're blowing it up. That's what an inflation means. So they blow the prices up so high that, let's pretend for a second, let's just say that the prices for a gallon of gas would be like $4.20. Let's just say that. Here in San Diego, I go get gas for my car, $4.20. And then suddenly you start seeing this rise in prices, this inflation, $4.50, $4.95. They always give you that $4.99, so you'll still have that number 4 in your mind, even though $4.99, might as well just say it, $5. But they give you that $0.99 so that your brain automatically will, your eyes will see the number 4 and your brain will register $4 and something, when really $4.99, come on, that's $5 a gallon. So they raise it, and then go up to $6.35 a gallon and reward you with that price if you pay them cash instead of using a card. Because when you use a card, a lot of places, they pay for that card. They pay a percentage for people that use a card. I don't know what that rattling noise is. So anyway, it's a tactic so that if the prices come down just a little bit, so let's say they start at $4.20 a gallon, the cheapest you could buy it, let's say with cash. For some of you, wherever you're from, you think that's crazy high, $4.20 for a gallon of gas. Well, here in San Diego, that would be the cheapest. We'd be jumping for joy if we had $4.20 gas. But you see, what they do is they raise it so high that you'll be willing to take anything besides that crazy high inflated number, $6.35. So then they bring it down to $5.99 a gallon, and you're jumping for joy. Yay! Oh, it's lowered finally. You get the number 5 in your head. You kind of ignore the 99. You're like, it's back to $5 and something per gallon, which is crazy because you're thankful that it's $5.99, $5.95, whatever it is per gallon when it started at $4.20. You see how they get you? But as I was thinking about this inflation stuff, the worst form of inflation there is the ego. The inflated ego. And the inflated ego doesn't care about others. The inflated ego only cares about one thing. It's self. self, self, self. They might seem like they care for others, but they really don't. Right? That inflated ego is what leads to things like narcissism, something I've been talking about lately in my videos, because it seems to be very rampant right now. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people email me, contacting me, the things that they're dealing with. They're dealing with people that are narcissists in their life. I made a video the other day talking about not only narcissism, but then when you combine it with Munchausen syndrome by proxy. There are parents out there, and it's amazing that so many of these parents just so happen to be Jehovah's Witness parents. And it's what's even, I mean, this will blow you away. A lot of you think that only men are a bunch of jerks and douchebags and no consideration and egomaniacs and narcissists and all this stuff. But you know what? I have more people contacting me about their wives, ex-wives, their moms, females in their life that were not only narcissists but have Munchausen syndrome by proxy, meaning they get their children sick on purpose so that they can receive attention. Attention from other people saying, oh, poor you, dealing with such a sick child. Wow, your life must be difficult. Or they get attention from their children because maybe their children are distant from them. Maybe the child senses that their mother is not the loving mother that she should be. So this child is distant from their mother, and so what's the mother do? Gets the child purposefully sick, maybe puts a little poison in their food. This is true stuff, you guys. I know it sounds crazy, but this is really happening. This is a real condition. And these children, they partake of this poison, it makes them sick, and it's just enough to keep them sick. Although that sometimes parents will overdo it, and then the child dies. And then that parent gets a whole bunch of attention from, like, you know, at the memorial or funeral service and all that. And then the parent is sad because their source of attention is gone now. Now they can't use their child anymore for attention, keeping their child sick so they can get attention. So that the child will say, Mommy, please help me. I need you. It makes the mommy feel good. You see that? Now that's an inflated ego. And having that inflated ego leads to all kinds of different symptoms like narcissism, perhaps even Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I would think that condition would start out most likely by a child when they're children. The person that grows up and ends up with that condition, most likely as a child, pretended to be sick to get out of school and chores and things like that. And it worked. And so since they got used to manipulating things by doing that little tactic, they end up not changing and they grow up to be that way. And then now they've got this condition called Munchausen syndrome. Right? Munchausen syndrome is where they pretend they've got sicknesses so that they can get out of stuff or even get attention. By proxy, Munchausen syndrome by proxy is when they hurt other people for attention. They could even hurt their pets for attention. Honestly, there are some sick, sadistic people out there, you guys. I hear this from people all the time. I get emails from people every day that are thankful that I'm actually talking about stuff like this on my videos, because I guess there's not a whole lot of people that are talking about this, addressing things, especially when they're looking for somebody that's a believer in God, in Christ, and then a believer that talks about these things, you know. And I know Christ can set you free. He's the one that can set you free, and he will. But there's a lot of people that are in religion, but they don't run to Christ. They rely so much on themselves and their religious leaders, just like Jehovah's Witnesses. It's all about yourself, and your religious leaders. And this is why in the Jehovah's Witness religion, you think that these humble, nice people are coming to your door, so humble and lowly and nice and kind and willing to sacrifice their time to come spread their message to save lives, when really this religion is just producing narcissists, egomaniacs. There's even somebody that contacted me recently that said that they knew of a woman that said that she was actually planning on killing her child. This is a Jehovah's Witness woman. Because her child, it would be better for her child to die with a hope of having a resurrection in the future from God. You know, hey, you died prematurely. Well, now you got a hope of getting resurrected into this Jehovah's Witness, what they call a new system. Their new system. There's going to be a new system. God's bringing a new system, they call it. Such an Illuminati type of phrase. New system. Even their leaders are called the Society. They call themselves the Society. Secret societies, systems, new systems. Their Bible translation even said New World Translation. We hear of New World Order. They're tied into, by the way, their founder of their religion, Charles Taze Russell, was known to be a Freemason. Part of these groups of enlightened, that's what Illuminati means, enlightened ones, self-claimed enlightened ones. So anyway, this religion, it produces these people that are even willing to say, you know what, I think I might have to kill my child because I'm doing my child a favor. They'll have a better chance of making it into the new system. God will resurrect them into the new system instead of them keep on living on earth and then they get old enough not to do everything that Jehovah God requires of them through the religion. And they don't want Jehovah God to kill their child, because if he does it, they don't have a hope of coming back. But if mommy kills the child, well, guess what? They have a hope of coming back. And mommy's feeling like she's doing something justified. Maybe she'll be rewarded for her service because it was just a mercy kill, right? Now, this sounds crazy. I know. But listen, you guys. I agree, it's crazy. It is. It's sick. But it's true. These things are really happening. And the only cure for this sickness, a long-lasting cure, well, step one, yeah, you got to get out of that religion, right? But there's a lot of people that get out of the religion, but still that poison, that religion is still stuck in them. They might have escaped the religion, but they didn't escape what that religion has done to them. Here's the thing, you guys. Inflated egos that lead to all kinds of stuff, all kinds of problems. There's a scripture in the Bible. Jesus calls John the Baptist the greatest prophet there ever was. John the Baptist. And the crazy thing is, when you read about John the Baptist, he seems kind of like a nutcase, right? I mean, people are talking about eating bugs today and all that stuff. You know, these sick-minded people, they're trying to talk into everybody into eating bugs. They got Hollywood stars eating bugs, and yeah, they are eating bugs. But guess who was a bug eater? John the Baptist. He ate bugs. Bible says so. He ate bugs. So crazy, right? So you think he's a nutcase. He'd be one of those guys promoting bug eating today, you would think, right? For the reasons that they're doing it. But Jesus said he was the greatest prophet there ever was. And when you read about John's life, you're right, like, what great things did he do? What great things did he do? I mean, you look at the Old Testament prophets, you know, look at Moses, look at Elijah. I mean, Elijah can call fire down from heaven. Moses raises his stick in the air and a sea parts in half, right? I mean, things like that. It just, what did John the Baptist do that was greater than these guys? What made him so great? Well, what made him great was John the Baptist got to announce the arrival of the Messiah, the Mashiach they were looking for, the Christ, right? All these other prophets, Moses, Elijah, and such, they were announcing the coming of the Messiah. He's coming, you guys. He's coming. He's coming. All these prophets, they wrote about him. They declared it. The Messiah is coming. The Messiah is coming. But John the Baptist is the one that got to say he has arrived, and there he is. He got to announce the arrival of the Messiah. But the one thing that John the Baptist had to also say was, and there he goes, because Christ never lived inside of John in spirit. John got to see him, got to talk to him, even got to baptize him, but then he got to watch Jesus walk away into the wilderness after his baptism. Here's the Christ, and there he goes. And then Jesus walks out into the wilderness, and he undergoes the tests. But here's the thing. Jesus says the least in his kingdom is greater than even John the Baptist. So let's say you're the least. I'm the least in the kingdom. All right, I'm the very least in the kingdom. I'm a mess. I hardly do anything that, religious people say that God would approve of. And maybe you read the Bible and you say, you know what? I hardly do anything that seems that God requires of people that confess to believe in him. Who am I? I'm the least. But then Jesus says the least in his kingdom is greater than even John the Baptist. How's that? Well, the one thing about the least in his kingdom today is you got the Spirit of Christ living inside of you, and that Spirit will never leave. You can never say, there he goes, no matter what. Right? You might listen to preachers that convince you that you can say, well, there he goes, like Christ's Spirit will leave you. If you don't measure up, his Spirit's going to leave you. You can lose his salvation, and if you listen to that kind of stuff and you believe it, I'm sorry for you, because you got infected by people that are twisting things that sound so right, and they even point out scriptures that seem to prove their beliefs, but they're just passing down traditional beliefs, right? And they have inflated egos. These guys have inflated egos because they don't believe they're going to lose their salvation, because they think that they're maintaining it through their obedience and all that. So they get really puffed up with pride. Just like, if you ever heard of the story of the prodigal son, this guy takes the inheritance. First, he demands that his father give him his inheritance now. He doesn't want to wait for dad. Dad's not dying yet. You're taking too long to die. Give me your inheritance now. I can't wait for your death any longer. It's taking too long. So this son the dad's like, okay, and he gives his son an inheritance. The son goes and squanders. That's what prodigal means. Somebody who squanders away and spends recklessly. Look it up. They spend recklessly. They squander money and goods. And this is exactly what that son does. Until now, he's so hungry, he wants to eat out of a pig trough. He's jealous that the pigs got all that stuff in the slop in the trough to eat. He wants to join with these pigs to eat their slop, right? So he's like, I'm going to plan on going back home, and I'm going to just, tell my dad to hire me back. Let me just be one of your servants, because I'm not worthy to be called a son. Now the father of this prodigal, has another son. The other son stuck around. The other son didn't leave his father's house. He stuck around. He was doing work. He was keeping everything going, the farm and all that stuff. And he was a hard worker on the farm. And when this prodigal brother of his comes crawling back home, and his dad's like, no, don't get up, son. And he kisses his son and welcomes him back and throws a party for his son who's returned. The brother is really upset about it. He can't believe that his father threw this punk a party when this punk did everything wrong. And the loyal son that's been there all along, he's like, well, you never threw me a party with my friends. He was upset. He had this inflated ego, because he's looking at himself saying, look at how much more I've done for my dad than my brother has. My dad still throws my brother, this worthless, good for nothing, loser, sinner, willful sinner. He should have lost dad a long time ago. Dad should have gave up on him. But see, his dad didn't give up on him. That brother had an inflated ego, because the brother's saying, look, I've done all this stuff. I've stuck around. And you still throw this guy a party, and I don't remember any parties for me. And it doesn't sound fair. It really doesn't. That's why you got guys today that are very strict with their morals, strict with everything, strict with telling you to serve God. They show you the scriptures about serving, working. And the reason is because they're angry that God might have grace and might welcome back people that willfully do all this crazy, stupid stuff. So their egos get all inflated. So here's the thing. They'll teach you that you can lose your salvation. And the thing is, they believe that they're maintaining theirs. Yeah, they got it at first by grace, but now they're maintaining it. There's a bunch of people that believe this. Trust me, I get emails from all sorts of people that tell me things that they got inflated egos too. And unfortunately, I get a lot of sad emails, like I was sharing you earlier about these Jehovah Witness parents. I have a lot of people that are former Jehovah's Witnesses contacting me because that's my specialty. I used to be one of them. So I understand that stuff very well, right? And I have a passion to help set people free. Not that I have the answers for everything, but my answer in my life was Christ, and it's been not a super easy breezy road at all. And I've done my prodigal stuff plenty of times over and over again. But he never left me. My feelings sometimes tell me he does. I feel abandoned a lot of times. But that doesn't mean that's the truth, because your emotions mess with you. So don't let your emotions rule over you, because that's the ego, actually. That's the ego kicking in. The ego can bring you down. The ego can puff you up. It can deflate you and inflate you. Right? Now, humility is different. Doesn't mean humility isn't like popping a balloon and you don't want to pop the balloon. But the thing about ego is, this inflated ego is, it keeps on increasing and increasing and increasing. And then what happens is the balloon will pop on its own. Jesus, going back to John the Baptist, he said that, so the least in his kingdom is greater than even John, the greatest prophet of all. And the only reason is because you get to say, here's Christ in me still. You'll never say, there he goes, like John did. Okay. And it's all through grace. It's all through grace, because you don't probably measure up to the works that John was doing. Right. But so this is all by grace given to us, and it's an awesome gift. It makes egomaniacs very angry, right? And they don't really preach a whole lot of grace because their egos are very, very wrapped up in their life. So there's something that John did say, and I think it's amazing. You got to remember, in the Bible, in the New Testament which talks about John the Baptist, John says something very interesting. He says, I must decrease so that talking about Christ, so that the Christ can increase. And when you look up the Greek words for what John said the ego, E-G-O. In Greek, it's ego. In English, it's the ego. He says the ego must decrease so that the Christ can increase. If you got Christ in you, but you got an inflated ego, you're not letting Christ actually flow through you, even though you think you're doing these great, great works. No, that my works are proving Christ flowing through me. But when you got a puffed up ego, trust me, yeah, you might be doing all these good works. Lord, 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 look at all this great stuff I've done for you. He doesn't deny that you've done all that great stuff, but he's like, but I never really knew you. Meaning that Christ didn't know you through your works. How he knows you is through intimacy. That's what the Greek word for knowing you is. When Jesus says, I never knew you, it's this word ginosko. It means an intimate knowing. Like this was something intimate and personal. I didn't know you through your great stuff that you're performing. I knew you through this intimacy we have, right? Like the prodigal son. It's not that he thought, I can go squander off my money and my dad's still going to take me back. That wasn't his thoughts at all. I'll do it because I'm forgiven no matter what. That's not why he went and squandered it away. He just went and squandered it away. He wasn't matured. He didn't have the life skills yet. Maybe his father taught him, but he didn't believe it. Who knows? But he went and made these choices anyway. The only thing that he was relying on was his father's mercy and grace. if I just, let my father know, I am not even worthy to be one of your sons. Don't even call me that. Just make me a servant, please, so I can have some food. Because that's all he was really concerned about, being able to eat, because he wanted to eat pig food, right? So at least at my father's house, there's some shelter, there's some food. I'll just be a slave, a servant. But he was still depending on his father's grace, because he didn't have any money to offer his dad. Listen, can I pay you to live here? All he had to offer was nothing but being a slave, a servant. But he was relying on the mercy of his father, the grace of his father. Where the other son wasn't recognizing the grace of his father and the mercy, he was more dependent upon, hey, look at what I've been doing. Don't I deserve a party? Didn't I earn a party? Your son doesn't deserve or earn a party. What's up with that? I've done all this work and I don't get a party. He's done all this failure and he gets a party. But that son that squandered off the money, he might have had an inflated ego. And that inflated ego came to a point of, you know what? He didn't have to humble himself. He got humbled. Best to humble yourself instead of being humbled. That prodigal son, he got to experience being humbled. He didn't humble himself. But then he kind of tried to humble himself a little bit when he's like, I'm just going to tell my dad I'm not worthy. But it's more like he was practicing a speech, right? Maybe if I say things right, my dad will have mercy and grace over me. And sometimes we feel like that as people, as believers. If I just word things right, maybe God will have mercy and grace over me. But you know what? This father, he wasn't waiting for his son to say all that stuff to him and prove himself. He was actually standing there waiting for the return of his son. And when he saw his son coming in the distance, man, that father, he couldn't wait to greet him, kiss him, cry on him, welcome him back, and throw him a party. Not saying congratulations. You just got to experience that if you blow it, if you sin a whole bunch, my grace will superabound over you. Where sin increases, grace increases even more. The father didn't say, hey, congratulations for that. But the father proved that his grace abounds over this son's failures. Right? So that's the problem with the world today, you guys. It's the problem with religious people, with people that don't believe or anything. Their egos are so inflated. And what's happening? Because of these people's egos inflating, well, now you're seeing the manifestation of other types of inflation. Don't be surprised. People's egos inflate. Well, guess what? Your gas prices go up. Your food prices go up. Your cost of living goes up because of these inflated egos. The worst form of inflation there is. My answer, since you're watching my video, is, man, get Christ in you. Get Christ in your life and depend on his grace. Be thankful for his grace. Live in his grace. Stay humble. Don't let your ego inflate you. Even if you start making changes in your life and you're like, hey, these changes, listening to God really helps. Well, hey, listen, stay humble through that. Don't get an inflated ego and say, hey, look at me. See what happens when I'm obedient and I start to listen? Oh yeah, all these great things start happening. So then you start looking down at others because they're not measuring up to you. And that can easily happen with some of the most amazing people. And I've heard so many amazing people that are amazing preachers. Their understanding of scripture, their scriptural knowledge, the scriptures they can quote, the things that they do. That they travel, they do ministering, they help the sick and the needy. But the thing is, they get these egos that start inflating and they start looking down at others that aren't doing what they're doing. And then instead of feeding the sheep, they turn around and start beating the sheep with their words, putting the sheep down. You're letting them know you're just like that prodigal. But the problem is, those preachers, they become like the brother of the prodigal, right? Anyway, so that's my answer. Christ in you, live in his grace. He covenanted you, meaning he married you through grace. It wasn't through your performance for him. He's not looking for somebody that performs right. If you just do all these lists of things that I have for you, then I'll marry you. And I'll stay with you. Otherwise, I'll divorce you. No, he doesn't do that, you guys. So stay in his grace. Be humble, though. Let the ego, like John says, let the ego decrease so that Christ in you can increase. And Christ in you is full of love and grace anyhow. So anyway, love you guys. I hope this has blessed you. And I hope you all have a great day. And I'll see you next time.